So I'm going to work on homework question number 81 from the OpenStax Statistics book, Chapter 1, 81. So this is a collaboration between OpenStax and Divide and Conquer Math. You can access the text for free. There's a link in the video. And additionally, I have more free math videos and Excel resources, all organized at divideandconquermath.com. Just go to OpenStax Statistics. So here I am in the OpenStax textbook looking at number 81. So this is a question where you've got 60 adults with gum disease were asked the number of times per week they used to floss before their diagnosis. So here is a table. So the directions are to fill in the blanks. What percent of adults flossed 6 times per week, and then what percent flossed at most 3 times per week. So if you want to do this in Excel, what you can do is you can just copy this table outright, and you should be able to just hit Control C, or you could, right click and hit copy. It doesn't really matter, but you should be able to paste this right into Excel. So I've copied my data. I'm in a blank Excel workbook, and then I just hit Control V. I paste this however you want to paste this, and so now here's my data. So let's see. I'm going to make this bigger. So remember, if you want to expand the column, you can always double click on a column. And in this case, it did something weird. So I'm just gonna highlight these columns and kind of blow this out, and then I'm going to center everything. And so now when I centered everything, sometimes when you paste things from OpenStax, it kind of acts goofy like this. Now, the only other thing that I want to do before I get too far with this is I want to make sure that this does match my original problem. So just compare this table to the table in the book. So now I'm just doing a quick look. I've got this 1.067. This should be a 3 blank blank 0.93333. So I feel good about what I pasted out. So everything looks all good here. And when I came back to Excel, just to make it easier so I don't forget what we're referencing, I just repasted the problem and all the other questions with it. So that's just so that I don't have to flip back and forth. So you might find that helpful as well. So okay, so now I can work with this. And if your table doesn't look like this, then you either repaste it, or you can type in the entries that you need. Most of the time copying and pasting works, but sometimes something gets shifted, so you just want to watch out for that. Okay, so anyways, so I've got a frequency table here. So the problem actually gives a big hint about this, because I can't fill in relative and cumulative frequency without knowing the total number of data points. And as you can see, I am clearly missing a data point, so I need to go back to the original problem. And the original problem says that 60 adults with gum disease were blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the total is actually given to us. The total in this case is 60, so I am going to mark that here. So here's my total of 60. And now that I know that, I should be able to fill in this part here. So I'm going to take 60 minus all of these other entries. So I just subtract off all this other stuff, and I see that I get 11. So now I've got that entry filled in, and from here I can fill in the rest of the table. So I actually am just going to write a formula for all of this stuff, and then if I get the same numbers as what I see here, then I know I wrote the right formula. So for my relative frequency, I'm just going to take the frequency divided by that total. So I explained how to do all of this in my larger workbook, where I just explained how basic Excel works. So if you aren't familiar with some of the commands that I'm typing in, I recommend you check out that workbook, because I explain all that here. So the thing about this is that I need to be able to lock this cell reference of B8 right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a $ in front of the B and the 8, as you see. And then, okay, so I still get the same number, right? 0.45, that's what I should have gotten. And now if I drag all of this down, so I can see that everything has filled in and there's similar references. Now remember, if you don't like the number of decimal points that you see, you can come up here and you can just shorten them. So I'm going to shorten these to just a couple decimal points like you see here. And then for cumulative frequency, so for cumulative frequency, the first entry is always the same thing as the first entry from your relative frequency. And then after that, you're always taking the previous entry plus the current entry, and then you should just be able to bring this all down. And again, I am just gonna shorten my decimals here, and so then we're good to go. And so from here, now I've filled in the table, and I can really easily answer the question, what percent of adults flossed 6 times per week? So I can see here 6, and that's 5%. So that's going to be 5% of adults. And what percent flossed at most 3 times per week? So that's 3 times or fewer, right? So I can either do that by cumulative frequency, which is 0.933, or I could just add these 3 entries, which is also 0.933. So I could call that 93.3% or 0.933, however you're answering that question. And so that's how you